Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in the English reading of the Quran, the translation and commentary by Abdullah Yusuf Ali, published by the IPCI Islamic Propagation Center International from Durban, South Africa. Right, so we're busy with chapter 12 of the Quran and we're busy with part number 9. As we mentioned, we have completed the reading of the chapter 12, but now we are looking at the appendix by the magnificent romantic story of Yusuf and Zulaykha by one of the Sufi mystics known as Jami, and we're reading the story according to Jami. So in a previous episode we read how Zulaykha had a beautiful dream about someone just called the Wazir of Egypt, right? So just remember this point, why it is very important, and we'll see later why this is a very important part of the dream. So we'll continue with part number 9. So armed with this clue, so in her dream she had the vision of the Wazir of Egypt. So she said, "This is the man of my dreams. I must marry the Wazir of Egypt." She did not know his name, just that he was the Wazir of Egypt. So armed with this clue, Zulaykha refused all offers of marriage from kings and princes, cherishing in her heart only the image of the man she had seen in her dream, a magnificent, beautiful, handsome man. She saw the Wazir of Egypt, who she had learned was the Wazir of Egypt. At length, her father is induced to send the wise men to Egypt to arrange the marriage with the Wazir. And remember, she has not seen the Wazir. All that she saw in a dream was a magnificently handsome man known as the Wazir of Egypt, the king of Egypt. Though he could not understand why the princess should have refused the offers of so many kings and princes from all over the world, she was insisting, no, she just wants to marry the Wazir of Egypt. So the wise man interviews the Wazir of Egypt, who is torn internally with many feelings. Now this Wazir of Egypt, remember, this is an old guy. He's not handsome and beautiful. This is someone else. What she saw in a dream was also the Wazir of Egypt, but that was Yusuf, who became afterwards the Wazir of Egypt. That is where the confusion and that is where the joke comes in with this magnificent story. So the wise man interviews the Wazir of Egypt, who is torn internally with many feelings. This Wazir is confused. Here was a princess who had refused the offers of great kings. His ambition was all aflame. How could he refuse? She wants to marry me. I am not a handsome guy. I'm old. What does she want with me? So he's confused. How could he refuse? Yet he knew his own condition. He was a eunuch. Right? He was a eunuch. That means his private parts were cut away. How could he accept? He pleaded that the king of Egypt needed him so much that he could not be absent a single hour. But he would send 200 gold litters, that means camel litters full, and 1,000 slave girls to wait on Zulaykha and convey her with honor to Egypt. The agent of Zulaykha's father knew that Zulaykha's heart was so set upon the Wazir of Egypt that it would be death to her if she could not get him. So he arranged the match and returned with what he supposed was good news, and Zulaykha too was delighted. Her bliss knew no bounds. She thought, had the prospect of union with the man of her dreams. Remember, she saw Yusuf in her dreams, but she did not know the name. The only clue she had was that he was the king of Egypt. Thus moralizes the poet, our joys and sorrows come from dreams and fancies. So meanwhile she's rushing to marry the Wazir of Egypt, who is the old guy, not the new Wazir who later became Prince Yusuf, right? So great preparations were made for Zulaykha's bridal procession to Egypt. Zulaykha's litter was carved with aloe and sandalwood. Its roof was resplendent with gems and gold like Jamshid's tent. Its curtains were hung with gold brocade, and in it was Zulaykha, radiant and happy that she was now going to meet the Lord of her love, whom she knew from her dreams and to whom she would now be united forever. When they approached the Egyptian capital, the Wazir, this old guy, came out, the eunuch, the one who does not have private parts, came out to meet his bride with a splendid equipage. Zulaykha was all eagerness to feast her eyes with the sight of her beloved. She thought she'd be meeting Yusuf. She did not know is this old guy coming. So she peeped through a hole in her curtain when lo, she was full of dismay. This Wazir was not the man of her dreams, not the man to whom she had plighted her troth and to whom she would be faithful for all her life. She had in her dreams seen the image of Yusuf, not of this Aziz. Now, who is this guy? Never would she give her faith or her love or her virgin honor to another. She is only focused on Yusuf, so who's this guy? She began to bemoan her fate. So imagine she opened the curtain, she banged it closed, and she's saying, what is going on here? She began to bemoan the fate. Nishandam nakal ikurma karbaradad. I planted a date palm. What has come out but thorns? She was in utter despair. What was to be done? A voice came to her from the unseen world. It said, true, this is not thy love, but thy desire for thy true love will be satisfied through him. Fear him not. The jewel of thy virgin honor is safe with him. Why? Because he is a eunuch, right? If a great sleeve is shown, but there is no hand within, what is there to hold a dagger, right? That means he is a eunuch. Don't worry about anything. Your virginity is ensured. Zulaykha had, of her own deliberate choice, had this marriage arranged. She must wed the eunuch. She got no choice. She must go ahead with the marriage. Whatever her personal grief, she cannot now complain, because now this is in public. She went through the brilliant ceremony, but her heart was empty. It was given to the man of her dreams, who was Yusuf, and it would never be another's. And so she spent her days in outward splendor and inward grief, pining away in love unsatisfied. At this time, perhaps she had a glimpse of that true love in which self is blotted out. In her despair, in her anguish, she could see things which are later obscured to her in her pride and in the allurements of her sense. She poured out her soul in music. She had faith. Surely, she thought, thou gavest me no lying vision. Why did thou call thyself the Wazir of Egypt? Why? And I left my home and country to be with thee, to be thine. I know I shall win thee in the end. When that happy day comes, I shall be not I, but I shall be thou. May I see thee soon. I shall roll up the carpet of life when I see thy dear face again, and shall cease to be. For self will be lost in that rapture, and all the threads of my thought from a hand will fall. Not me wilt thou find, for the self will have fled. Thou wilt be my soul in mine own soul's stead. All thought of self will be swept from my mind, and thee, only thee, in my place shall I find. More precious than heaven, than earth, more dear. Myself were forgotten if thou were near. Right, so let's continue with chapter 12, part number 10. So remember, we are busy with the appendix number 6 in the Abdullah Yusuf Ali translation of the Quran. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.